Well, hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Patricia Warby of Alchemy Therapies, and today I want to talk about, I want to talk about nervous system dysregulation, and in particular with reference to two things that I've been investigating recently. Now, the first thing is the film Back to Black, which I saw yesterday, which is a drama based on the life of Amy Winehouse, and is actually a very excellent film. I really enjoyed it, and the performance by the lead, who played Amy, was absolutely extraordinary. She did a lot of the singing herself, and got the voice and the mannerisms just absolutely spot on. I also watched after that a recording of a session, an interview really, with her ex-husband, Blake Fielder Civil, because I was very interested in the film, because the central tenet of the film is that Amy was led astray, I guess. She fell in love with a bad boy, as it were, and we know, introduced her to hard drugs, which she'd always sort of disdained. But there's a much more complex, nuanced understanding of this, and hearing him, who talking, he's now a father himself, and considerably older. Obviously, it's 12 years ago, 13 years ago. 13 years ago, she died in July 2011. And he said very tellingly, no one was looking out for me either. And I thought about that this morning. I thought, first of all, no one was looking out for me. So he's not exonerating himself. He's just saying, yes, I did these things. I regret them. I wish I hadn't. But it's very telling, isn't it, when someone says no one was looking out for him. And I think it's true. But in the story, in the film, he doesn't have a fixed abode. He's sofa surfing, as he says, and relying on friends. So there's obviously a family story there where he's disconnected from his family and has no support. But then this morning I thought about the word either. No one was looking out for me either. And then I thought, because the film's quite a cozy story, really, initially, of how she grew up in a Jewish family, how she was well supported, and her dad in particular comes across as somebody who kind of looks out for her, drives her around to gigs, and picks her up when she's in trouble because he's a taxi driver, and that's Mitch. I know that in reality, perhaps he wasn't quite so there for her as she needed, and there is the real life story is that when she got famous, he actually invited a film crew to come on holiday with them, because I saw that in the documentary I watched a while ago. I think it's a couple of years ago. That it's a complicated story. It always is, because many people are operating from good intentions, but they're operating from a nervous system that has never truly grown up, and is actually, you are a child in an adult body. And I certainly would put my hand up and say that that's certainly the case for me. My first probably 35, 40 years, I was operating from reactivity based on what I had experienced in childhood, and not really able to relax into adulthood. And therefore, taking on a child, having children would have been, it would have been completely overwhelming. And I'm sure many parents feel that. Now, I do know that her parents were separated. That's very clear. Her mother doesn't seem to figure very much in the movie. I don't know if that's based on reality. There is an allusion to the fact that she's not well, and I take that to mean perhaps she had mental health issues, because she doesn't seem to, apart from the fact that obviously she provides a home for Amy and Amy lives there initially. There's no real interaction in the movie. The prime interaction is between her dad, her nan, who Cynthia, who was also a singer back in the day and had performed at Ronnie Scott's and kind of helped mentor her a little and supported her, but who tragically died of lung cancer while Amy was actually in New York, I believe. And so she lost that support structure, which is really important because that was emotional support. And then there's Blake Fielder Civil, who she married, fell in love, married, who has always been characterized as the bad boy who led her into hard drugs and kind of caused her to die tragically young. But I think the more nuanced version of that, and certainly from what he was saying, is that she already had an issue with alcohol and he didn't make her do anything. She did everything of her own volition, as he put it. She never did anything she didn't want to do. But what I think I want to do is sort of draw back from the details of that life and understand why people are led to these kinds of adaptations, if you like, addiction strategies, because that's what it is. It's a strategy to help regulate the nervous system that is highly dysregulated. And if we look at, therefore, the early life experience as the mold, if you like, that creates the brain that you then carry around for the rest of your life, we understand that humans, unlike most animals, are born with very immature brains, because there's a payoff in order to get us through the birth canal, and we've got very large heads, brains inside. We have to do a lot of our development outside the womb. And so the early environment is so key to how your brain develops and how its stress response system operates. And Gabor Mate talks a lot about this in his fabulous new book, The Myth of Normal, which I'm going through. I'm about a third of the way through. I will do a full review when I finish that. But he's quoting some eminent people, a neuroscientist, for instance, talking about how the brain is shaped by early experience, all right? Whether you are loved and supported. Most people are loved, but whether they are supported in ways that they recognize that they feel, because often parents and children mismatch, and it's nobody's fault, and we're not blaming parents, because, you know, had I become a parent, I'm sure I would have been exactly like that, because as I say, I wasn't really mature enough to deal with someone else's nervous system when I couldn't even regulate my own. So it's not easy. But the fact that we have kind of made child rearing an independent occupation, if you like, for either one or two people, and not devolved it to a wider community, which is how we developed for millennia. You know, that you would have been raised by a tribe, by a group of people who intimately knew you and your parents, with people who were around, who could, you know, a mixed age range, who could help guide you. We don't have that now. It all comes down to the parents themselves, and some of it's devolved to schools, of course. But there is this terrible neurological payoff for that, in that the child is so dependent on the quality of the interaction with the caregiver. And this is called attachment theory. I've talked about that many times. But if it's stressful for whatever reason, the parents are busy, they're overwhelmed themselves, trying to keep up with everything. And children now are subject to so much information that they wouldn't have had before. And, you know, with social media and constantly being online. I mean, Gabor talks about this, but the recent figures show that most kids are online from the moment they wake up to the time they go to sleep. You know, it's just, even at school, where they're supposed to be focusing on what they're being taught, they've got this constant distraction, and it's no wonder we're seeing huge rises in anxiety and ADHD and many other mental health issues. It's really about how the nervous system takes in information and how it makes meaning of that. And if your system is constantly on the go and feels like it can't regulate, then you're going to pay the price for that. In terms of your brain development, your brain won't develop in an integrated way, in that you can feel secure in yourself, connected to your body and your experience, and be flexible in your response to outward stresses. because what it does is it molds the stress response system, these early experiences. So if you were easily overwhelmed because, things happened in your childhood that didn't leave you feeling safe, you will respond like that when things in your adult life come along to trigger that. So we have a really big responsibility to re-regulate ourselves when and if we come into adulthood, not using drugs or alcohol or overwork or any other form of addiction, but learning to connect with our bodies in a way that feels whole and safe. And there are tools that we can now use for that. And one of the tools I use is called havening. Now, if we think about safety, the word haven, is a safe haven. For Amy, that was her nan. I think to some extent her dad, not latterly probably. But for me, that was my father, and he died. So there was a loss of that safe haven. So recovering a haven inside is what re-regulating is all about. And to do that, we need to approach the body, not the thinking. So we need the feelings inside that we can help soothe and connect with without fear, rather than allowing our brain and its thinking to drive us into further dysregulation. Because if you're feeling thoughts that feel really painful or uncomfortable and you can't rationalize or integrate that because your brain is not integrated, then the way to bring that online is actually through the body. It's somatic. And so havening is a wonderful tool. It uses touch. I've demonstrated it before, but it's all about giving the message through touch and through the words that you say in collaboration with another person. So if you were working with me, we would say words out loud like I'm here, and this is now, because you want to bring someone into the here and now, and then it's okay, I can relax because I am supported. And that's a really big moment for people to realize that they're not just reliant on the brain that has adapted to the situation of being dysregulated to re-regulate themselves. You need another person. You need a safe nervous system to connect with. And this is the way I do it. But there are many other ways you could do it. You could do it with cranio-sacral work, holding, feeling the breath, feeling the rhythm of the cranio-sacral fluid. Feeling someone just holding your head is amazing, and quite naturally it feels very, very safe. Having breath work where you allow your breath to come from the belly rather than the upper chest, because upper chest breathing, which is so common, is a sign of stress to your body, and that actually uses the neck muscles to breathe instead of coming from the diaphragm. And so that's another way that you can help re-regulate. Chanting or humming, making Peter Levine, who's a brilliant man, uses the VU sound. So actually doing a VU kind of deep sound in your chest that sounds like a foghorn helps to stimulate your vagus nerve, which is one of the main highways from your body to your emotional brain, which is the back brain. And so it's bottom up rather than top down. And this is what Gabor Mate is talking about in his book. And he's quoting neuroscientists, all sorts of fabulous research that shows that it's really the bottom up approach. It's being held, being supported, feeling safe in your body and in your life that allows you to manage the ups and downs of adult experience. And that quite clearly wasn't present for Amy, and it isn't present for very many people. It wasn't present for me for a long, long time until I learned these techniques. And now I help other people who feel similarly dysregulated and are noticing things in their life that maybe recur, situations that keep recurring, or symptoms that they're experiencing in their body that makes no sense. That makes sense to you and you would like to explore that with me, you can find me on alchemytherapies.co.uk, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.